Welcome to the roller coaster ride of business with Hannah Edwards on Global Voice Radio. Hannah and her guests share the real deal, the ups and downs, the highs and lows of building a business. Here is your host, Hannah Edwards.
Hey guys, and welcome to this week's roller coaster ride of business. I'm your host on the Global Voice Radio platform, Hannah Edwards, and we are going to be following on from our topic last week of Imposter Syndrome and discussing self-sabotage in business. So whilst we will never be able to eliminate our self-sabotaging behaviours, there are things we can do that helps to reduce them. But first, I want to say that even if you don't feel like you get self-sabotaging thoughts, I can guarantee that you do. But guess what, guys? It's okay, because every entrepreneur gets them. In fact, you don't even have to be an entrepreneur. Every business person gets these thoughts. So every time you think, I don't, or I can't, you're having a self-sabotaging thought about yourself. Can't pass that exam. I don't think I'm good enough. They're all things in our lives that we are sabotaging ourselves with daily. So when I was researching for this show, I found millions of ways that business owners sabotage themselves every day. If I was going to mention them all, then this show would be hours and hours long, because seriously, guys, when I hit Google and I typed in everyday self-sabotaging behaviours in business, pages and pages of hits came up. So instead, I narrowed it down to a couple that I knew would definitely be some that I want to talk about. And I then hit Facebook to find out other people's views on self-sabotage in their business or in business in general. So the first one that I found that I know that a lot of people are guilty of is micromanaging everything. So a lot of people listening and appearing on the show start their businesses on their own. So they soon get to a point where they've been scaling their businesses up so much that they need to start delegating. They can go one of two ways. So the first way is to not delegate and end up burning themselves out because they can't ask for help, guys. They literally just take everything on and on and on and think, oh, I have done this on my own so far. I can carry on doing it. But that's not good enough, guys, because if you're burning yourself out, how are you going to carry on doing it? So the second way is by delegating, but micromanaging that person that you're delegating it to. Why outsource if you're then just going to become the person's manager? And I can guarantee you the person you're delegating to is agreeing with that. They are thinking the exact same thing as well. Not acknowledging the, as we call it, the little people, are people that work under us, are stepping stones to our success. So when you scale your business, you'll get to the point where you either need to, as we just said, delegate, but not micromanage, and outsource, or hire a team that works under you to take it to that next level. As a CEO, you need to remember to thank these people that helped to get you to that top level. And by doing this, guys, you are creating an awesome culture to work in, that everyone's going to want to come and work with you. Everyone's going to want to talk about you. Every show we talk about, well, almost every show, we talk about how social media can be a fantastic thing for business, but also how it can be a really bad thing for business. So if you're a CEO of a company and you either outsource or you hire a team of people to work with you that are not thanked, are run down, constantly piled work up on, and generally work in an environment that they hate, I know hate seems like a really strong word, but it's true, an environment that they hate, they're going to take to social media and give you a bad review. That review is going to be seen by someone down the street who's going to pass it on to someone that they know that's thinking of coming to you. And they're going to pass it on, and they're going to pass it on, and they're going to pass it on. Because for every bad review you get, that gets told to loads of people. Every good review you get, not shared so much. We have to do all that work sharing it ourselves. But as soon as you get a bad review, guys, because you're not thanking the people that work with you, work for you, that review is going to get shared everywhere. So this one was one that stood out to me. It was conforming to popular opinion. So in the 1950s, there was a study conducted by psychologist Solomon Asch that showed that even if the answer was wrong, the majority of people who were asked a question would give the same answer as everyone else. So they didn't care if their answer was wrong, or they knew the right answer, or their opinion was completely different, because they didn't want to stand out from the crowd. They gave the exact same answer as however many people before them had given, but the answer was wrong, so they failed. So if you were in a survey or in a room with 20 other CEOs who profess to be in the same industry as you, and a question is answered, and 19 of those CEOs give an answer that you know, and the person answering the question knows, and the majority of them know is wrong, but they're all saying it just because they want to conform. They don't want to be the one to stand out. Are you going to, again, give the wrong answer so that all 20 of you have given the exact same but wrong answer so that none of you stand out? Or are you going to be the one that steps forward and says, no, they're wrong, this is the answer? Because a great way to get noticed in business, guys, and the lesson here, to never follow the majority, stand out from the crowd. Make your brand noticed. So I am not going to lie, guys, my biggest way that I sabotage myself, not just in business, but in personal life, is self-doubt. So even with this show today, okay, I thought a few days ago, I want to do a show on self-doubt, on self-sabotage, on ways that people unintentionally can ruin their business. But then, because I thought about it days ago, and I didn't get straight on with it because I had other commitments I had to deal with first, that self-doubt started coming in of, well, it's not going to be a show that people want to listen to. Why does anyone want to listen to a show that's on such a terrible subject? So I doubted big time, but I had a chat with someone, and then after a post in Donnie's Success Champion group, by Donnie, not by me, because it was him that I was chatting to, I knew I was definitely onto something with this topic, because he tagged so many people in this post. And this is why social media is great. He was like, Hannah needs help on self-sabotage in business for her podcast. Tagged a load of people. Boom, there were their responses. So I'm going to share a couple of them with you today. I would love to share all of them, but I think the problem is going to be we'll end up with a show that, like all of those pages in Google, is hours and hours long. So Richard Kaufman shared that his biggest self-sabotage at work is always worrying about the big things and ignoring the small things. He was told by a mentor, watch your pennies and your dollars will take care of themselves. So in the UK, watch your pennies and your pounds will take care of themselves. We are always told that growing up. Watch your pennies, your pounds will take care of themselves. Save, 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 because then you've got the massive pile of pounds. And I guess that is true for in business as well. Take care of your small tasks, your small things, because they will then help you with your big things. If you ignore all those small things, think of it like bricks, guys, like Lego or Jenga. All those small bits and pieces soon build up to a massive tower. You ignore those ones and that tower's going to fall. So Laura DeFranco said that self-sabotage for her is listen to the voices that say you aren't good enough, you're not trying or working hard enough, that you're not being perfect enough, that someone's doing it better than you, and then being paralyzed by that rather than connecting with your passion or mission and aligning with the thoughts and serve it. Don't believe everything you think. So this can go for personal and business. We always have this concept of being enough, being perfect enough, pretty enough, smart enough, successful enough, rich enough, friendly enough, nice enough. Why does enough come into it? People need to start realizing that in business and in personal life, being you is enough. You don't need to be anyone else. Stop comparing yourself. She also shared the perfect quote by Anne Lamott that says, "My mind is like a dark alley. I don't go there alone." So I'm going to leave that quote there. I'm not even going to discuss that because for me, that would be a whole other show. Another member of the group, Jason Smith, shared his views on the subject, saying that shrinking your goals to fit the average, not taking action based on perceived resistance of others to your ambition is self-sabotage. He also thinks that fear of success is a factor, and if you've never been as successful as you desire, then there is fear of that unknown. All these points are fantastic. Like every time I read them, I sit there and think, do you know what? That is perfect. Everyone's views are spot on. So Donald Dodson, his views of self-sabotage could be seen as slightly different to some of the others I've mentioned because he's a creative. And he says that confidence issues, imposter syndrome that we discussed last week, and self-sabotage are the battle cry of the creative, and that they can get very wrapped up with negative or at least limiting thinking. So entrepreneurs and creatives especially can come up with a bazillion reasons why something won't work, or that no one will want our stuff, instead of thinking of how to make it happen. Donald says he also tends to put things off or delay actions under the guise of getting all his ducks in a row first. And even on occasion, he's been known to not start or promoting his stuff because he's too busy already. And imposter syndrome, being hypercritical of our own abilities, the list goes on. And plus, artsy stuff is legitimately subject, so there is that paranoia as well. So Chad King shared that he's guilty at times of doing things that create the illusion of being productive, and that while not worthless, they are not the truly valuable things that he could or should be doing. So I know it seems like I'm just saying this person shared this person shared that. These guys have literally managed to sum up in their views, in their little paragraphs that they wrote for me, exactly what self-sabotage is to business people. There is so much that could be said that hasn't been said, and so much that has been said that could be a whole other show to go into. So Derek Murrell said that he's a full-time entrepreneur, so his work isn't a typical 9 to 5. But that said, it's essentially boiling down to the same stuff. It's our mind, it's our belief systems, it's our disciplines to control our thoughts. I say that in some ways, a 9 to 5 could be harder in that you may be doing a job, you may not be doing a job that you like. 80% of people, last I saw, hate their job, which means the mind can be very critical of bosses and co-workers, since our mind creates and brings to reality that which we focus on. Criticism brings forth negative emotions and more of what we hate. He says the leg up that he has is that he can, for the most part, control his environment. So he can choose to be around who he wants to be around, work on what he wants to work on. But however, as an entrepreneur, he's often on his own island with no true guidelines or parameters. So self-talk of, I'm horrible at this, I suck at sales, I suck at managing, I'm the worst manager or leader, whatever we tell ourselves, is massive self-sabotage. We are always self-sabotaging. We can elicit fear or courage, worry or peace of mind, etc. We either self-sabotage our failure, which is a good thing, or we self-sabotage our success, which is a bad thing. And the point is that the self has the power to move forward, to do what we're destined to do, or work against it. But one thing for certain is that it's always working. We too often limit our potential, which is so true. And he said that sometimes the thing holding you back is all in your head. I love that. He actually showed a picture with that, but unfortunately I can't show it on here. So there are so many reasons that every day an entrepreneur somewhere is struggling with self-sabotage. So if you take anything away from today's show, I hope it's the fact that you're not alone. Find someone that you can talk to, because I guarantee you that at some point in their business or their life, maybe right at the same time as you, they'll be feeling the same, or they have been feeling the same. So we've done the talk on what the behaviours are, what the thoughts are, other people's views. Now we're going to talk about some of the ways to conquer some of the behaviours that you have. So one of the many ways is to hold yourself accountable. We don't do this often enough. I mean, we had a 2-part show on accountability, and I still find that people, myself included, are happy to have an accountability partner that they hold accountable for their stuff, but don't hold themselves accountable. And I am big time guilty of that. I will check in with my partner, make sure she is on the right path, doing what she needs to do. But for me, I quite often forget that once I've made that to-do list, I need to hold myself accountable to get it finished and not to think the negative thoughts that stop me from finishing it. So at the end of your work day, doesn't matter if your work day is a couple of hours squeezed in after the day job, a couple of hours squeezed in after your business, whatever it is. Say you've been doing some client work and then you've got a couple of hours free that you're going to sit and do your work. But after whatever time you're spending, job or no job, business or no business, spend 5 or 10 minutes just reviewing your day and finding out what has worked and what didn't. Then work out what is next for those things that didn't work. How can you do them differently so that next time you want to do them, they work for you? So I have a to-do list book that I write down my list, and if I haven't succeeded on my list, I then go on to the next day, and anything that I didn't do that day before, I think, why didn't I do it? What is it that stopped me from doing that task? Why did I skip over that one that I marked as more important than the one at the bottom? And then I change how I'm going to attack it, how I'm going to approach it, how I'm going to do it. And I get it done the next day. Don't undervalue yourself. We hear it all the time, guys. You need to know your worth. Sit down, work out exactly what you pay out on each month and what you need to be charging to cover that. One way that people sabotage themselves in business, and it's a huge way because we're making our living out of this, guys, by not charging enough because they want the client work. And then they don't have the money at the end of each month to cover their bills. So we're so desperate for that client work that we put ourselves all out there. We don't have our niche nailed down yet. We haven't worked out who our ideal client is. And we're saying, okay, person A from down the road, you own a bakery. I'll design all your stuff. But person B down there, I'm going to clean your house. Person C somewhere else. All of those are completely different businesses, and we spread ourselves around them, and then we charge them so little because we don't know what our worth is. So a big thing that we constantly do is compare ourselves to others. And we discussed this on last week's show, but comparing ourselves leads to imposter syndrome, which leads to us feeling like we're not good enough or worth our prices, which leads to us failing in our business. Because if we're sat there thinking, well, still not in business a year yet, and this person over here, they've been in business 5 years, so yeah, they can be charging the £30 an hour or whatever it is they're charging, but I should only be charging 10. And then it rolls right the way back to knowing your worth, because at the end of the day, you've got bills to pay. You want to make this your job. You want to make this your livelihood, your one and only thing that you work on to get it up and running, to give yourself the life that you want. So after you've done this, and any of the other ways that you guys know that you can conquer your self-doubt, we're never going to eliminate it, but we can conquer it that day. If you're still doubting yourself or sabotaging yourself, find a mentor, someone who can put you on the right path and cheer you as you go on. Because as great as it is to have family and friends who aren't business people cheering us on, we need the business person to help us as well, because they've got the experience. They've been there, guys. They know what they're talking about. One thing that I want to say is sometimes when you're self-sabotaging yourself, it's because you've forgotten your why you're going into your business, and you need to remember it. Take a day out, think about your why, go back to scratch, get your business plan out, and see just how far you've come from when you did that first plan to now. So guys, if anything from today's show has hit home for you, please get in touch. I would love to know how you conquer your self-sabotaging thoughts and feelings. And if you want to know anything about Donnie's group or the people who have contributed to today's show, you can find their links in this week's show description. Thanks for listening all, and I am back next week.
Thank you for listening. Join Hannah Edwards and the roller coaster ride of business every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on Global Voice Radio, where your voice is heard.